much more do you want from me?
More.
How much more successful do you want me to be?
More successful.
How many records can my records break?
More records.
But I'm the best.
But are you a different animal and the same beast?
What the does that mean, Kobe Bryant?
You're welcome.
What the is he talking about?
Cowabunga listeners, this is the Ball Don't Lie podcast here on Penn State Sports Night. It's yours truly, Hunter Pitcoff, live and direct as always. Today, we're going to be giving some thoughts on the All-Star Weekend, talk about how the Chicago Bulls can fix that terrible team that they currently have right now. We're going to talk about if the Nets have what it takes to win a championship next year, if the Clippers have what it takes to win a championship this year, and also give my all-NBA Jam team. So that's what we got on the rundown today. But first, as always, we're going to go around the association. Talk about Trae Young. Ice Trae picks up right where he left off, drops a career-high 50 points against Miami. First game back from All-Star break. Of course, basketball resumed yesterday. We had the Hawks taking on the Heat. There was a good game between the Sixers and Nets. We'll get into that a little bit later. Also, the Rockets beat the Warriors as well. But just looking at this one game in particular with Trae Young, it was Quavo night in the ATL, of course. You got to know Migos is always repping there in Atlanta, so they were honoring Quavo. Trae Young gave Quavo his jersey after the game, so that's the ATL love right there, Peach State love. And if the Hawks were up to standards with the hip-hop scene in Atlanta, perhaps they'd be competing for a championship right now because the Hawks are towards the bottom of the league. And when it comes to, I don't know, the hip-hop regional league, completely just made that up, Atlanta would be right toward the top because there's so many talented artists that come out of there. So that's just a fun joke right there. Trae Young, though, fourth youngest player, not a joke, to drop 50 points in NBA history behind Brandon Jennings, LeBron James, and Devin Booker. It's also worth noting that Trae Young kind of clapped back on Jimmy Butler on Twitter. So earlier in the season, in case you missed it, Trae Young, during a game between the Hawks and Heat, he said it was over during one of the games, basically hinting that the Hawks wrapped it up, they were going to win, but the Heat proceeded to come back and win the game. Butler took offense to that, went to Twitter and said, "This man, at Trae Young, is a teller of the future." He was right. The game was over. And then after last night, Trae Young finally got his taste of revenge and said, "NFYI at Jimmy Butler was right. I can see the future. I saw tonight happening a while ago. Hashtag, and I don't even like Twitter beefs." But that's a long hashtag, Trae Young, but that's okay. If you drop 50, you can say whatever you want. Currently right now, and I looked this up, and I kind of knew he was already sniffing this, but Trae Young is second in the league in both scoring and assists. 30.1 points per game, 9.2 assists. Behind James Harden for scoring, behind LeBron assists. Highly doubt he catches either of them. They both have a very far lead. But Jesus Christ, Trae Young, chill out. I mean, I guess that's why you call him Ice Trae for a reason, right? But he's unleashing his inner Nate Archibald, Tiny Archibald. You probably don't know who that is. He's the only player ever to lead the league in scoring and assists in the same season. He averaged 34 points per game, 11.4 assists in 1973. Neither of my parents were even born then, so that's how long ago it was since the last time somebody did it. I think Trae Young's got a very good chance to do it. Maybe not this year, but down the road, because Trae Young is a cold brother indeed. And I hope the Hawks don't waste this dude's talent. Like, Trae Young is so freaking good. Only 21 years old, but he's already one of the 20 best players probably in the NBA right now. All-star starter, of course. Hope the Hawks can turn it around, build a team around him. And it's also just worth knowing that Trae Young also received the January NBA Cares Community Assist Award for helping those in need in the Georgia and Oklahoma areas as well. So he's an all-star both on and off the court. Shout out to Trae Young, and hopefully for him, he can start winning some games so that card doesn't get used against him down the road. Also, shout out to Darrell Armstrong, who will be inducted into the Magic Hall of Fame. You probably don't know who that is, but I'll take you on a little bit of a history tour, if you will. He'll be joining Nick Anderson, Shaq, Penny, and T-Mac, Tracy McGrady, as members of the Magic Hall of Fame, if you will. Darrell Armstrong, he's a dog. True underdog story here. Went from being a bench warmer the team's top floor general in the late 1990s, early 2000s, spent 9 seasons in Orlando. He's really a fan favorite. Like, Orlando, the only professional team. Well, they have Orlando FC now, the soccer team, but for the most part, they pretty much only had the Magic as their professional team. They haven't been winning a lot recently, but this is an organization that has endured a lot of success, both with Shaq and Penny, both when Dwight Howard was there. This is, they've typically had a good success of winning games, but hasn't been that way the last 10-odd years, ever since Dwight really left. But, made the playoffs last year. Perhaps they'll make it this year. We'll see. Anyways, though, keeping it on topic, Darryl Armstrong, he won Most Improved Player and Sixth Man of the Year in 1999, but won both those awards in the same year. That's pretty impressive, if I will say so myself. He was kind of the saving grace of the franchise when Shaq and Penny went to play elsewhere, Hardaway getting traded to the Suns, and then Shaq, of course, going on to play for the Lakers. So shout out to Darryl Armstrong. What a career, well-deserved. He's currently an assistant coach on the Dallas Mavericks. They also have nothing but great things to say about him. And I'm glad to see that a fan favorite in Darryl Armstrong is getting the honor that he deserves in Orlando. Next up, Rick Ross dropped a track called Season Ticket Holder, which you're probably wondering, why would I even bring this up in an NBA podcast? Because Dwayne Wade and Udonis Haslem, two heralded Miami players, were both on the track. Udonis Haslem didn't go off on it. Dwayne Wade dropped the verse, and I'd give it a 9 out of 10. Just kidding. That's just an inside joke because Dwayne Wade just loves giving 9s out of 10s on dunk contests. We'll get into that a little bit later, of course, but it was cute. I like it was for the Miami culture. Dwayne Wade sounds like he doesn't do this that often, though. I guess maybe when he's on the mic, maybe go to TNT and talk basketball. Probably got to get your bars up a little bit, though. Next up, the Houston Rockets. They made it rain last night from behind the arc. 25 of 49 from 3. Sheesh. Man, Houston was hot. That is over 50% of the threes made on 49 attempts. That's a lot of threes shot, and that's also a lot of threes made. So it's the 6th time in franchise history the Rockets have made at least 25 threes in a single game. Every other team has 2 such combined games that they've done that. So the rest of the league has done that twice. The Rockets alone have done it 6 times. I mean, that just shows you that they're so committed to that, risking it all, shooting threes till they die, right? But they also made 18 more threes than the Golden State Warriors did, which is tied for the third largest difference in a game in NBA history in terms of the 3-point differential. Russell Westbrook also got tossed for talking to the Warriors bench. He got teed up twice in that game. So, gotta love Westbrook. Gotta love that competitive nature, if you will, even though they blew out the Warriors pretty bad. Next up, another game that was a really good game. I actually got to watch a little bit of it. Was the Sixers-Nets game. Joel Embiid had 39 points and 16 rebounds. Felt like a big win, a big overtime win over Brooklyn. It's also worth noting that the Nets outscored the Sixers 59-33 when Al Horford was on the court. And the Sixers outscored the Nets 79-45 when he was on the bench, Al Horford. I mean, Jesus Christ. Oh my God. I mean, you gave Al Horford all this money. I kept saying, I like Al Horford as a player, but he just did not make sense in Philly. I did not get it at the time they signed him, and it's now completely making sense why they probably shouldn't have signed him in the first place. It's also worth noting that Ben Simmons sat this one out, did not play. Joel Embiid also called himself the best player in the world after the game. I like the confidence, respectfully disagree, but Joel Embiid is definitely a really good player. This is kind of a best player in the world kind of performance you want to see out of the big fella. Now the question is, can Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons actually work together? They've gone on to say that they're friends and stuff. I don't necessarily disagree with that, but it's also worth noting that the Sixers right now are not to their full potential. And I said on this podcast last week, I think they got to trade Embiid. I said it on the NBA segment I did earlier on Monday. I think they got to trade Embiid, clear house. I think anyone but Ben Simmons should be available. And, the team with the most talent doesn't always win. The best team wins. And I think that's kind of been the problem with the Sixers, is that they have a bunch of talented guys, but just all doesn't work together. You can blame Brett Brown all you want. I think he deserves some of the blame, but it's pretty hard to put both Embiid and Simmons in a position to succeed while also winning games as well. Also worth noting that Kyrie and Klay Thompson both have been ruled out for the season. Kyrie is getting shoulder surgery. Klay Thompson still ailing the ACL injury. I don't think this really shocked anybody. Maybe the Kyrie one did a little bit, but it's not that shocking that Klay Thompson was going to sit this one out. The Warriors have nothing to play for. Next year, he'll be a full 100% good to go. Kyrie, hopefully for the Nets, can also be 100% and good to go. So, as you probably know, the All-Star break, there weren't a lot of games being played. In fact, there were none until last night. So I don't really have any players of the week. I kind of thought it'd be like a little corny to like do it just from yesterday, especially since I already talked about probably the 3 players from it anyway, Embiid, Trae Young, and then perhaps like, I don't know, like James Harden or something, but it just wouldn't have been that good. So no players of the week this week, only exception. Next week, though, we'll get right back on the grind with that. But I will give my thoughts on the All-Star weekend because there's a lot to take away from it, mainly good things. So I thought the new All-Star game format, it's not perfect, okay? I get it. But all in all, definitely a success. And the NBA, I'm pretty confident, will use this as a foundational piece to continue the All-Star game moving forward. The fourth quarter, of course, was extremely competitive. It's kind of weird AD won on a free throw and a pickup game kind of thing. But, I mean, hey, who would have known that that's how the game would have ended, was on free throws? And at the end of the day, like, as a basketball player, you know, even me, not an NBA player or anything, but just going on the driveway and, you know, shooting those 2 free throws, like picturing everyone all eyes on me, those 2 free throws to ice the game. I mean, I've imagined it. I've also been in that situation as well. So it's important to knock down your free throws. And AD actually missed the first one, said he intentionally missed it, and then made the second one. Don't know how true that is, but it's kind of funny. He did end up making it. He did end up, you know, icing the game and winning it in his hometown of Chicago. I picked Team LeBron to win. I thought their roster was just a little bit better. I had Anthony Davis as the MVP. For that reason, I thought he'd come out to play. He did. But credit to Kawhi Leonard because he showed out, had an awesome game. First player to ever win the Kobe Bryant MVP award for the All-Star game. Of course, the All-Star game MVP award was named after Kobe. He's tied for first for the most All-Star game MVPs in the league history. So it was nice to see that, of course, now the award is named after him. And Team LeBron, Team Giannis charities, I forgot both their names, but they won hundreds of thousands of dollars. They were so funny in the end zone, if you will, cheering them on, having Team LeBron chants, Team Giannis chants. It was great that all those kids and those charities got the money that they deserve. And hopefully those kids will be set up for the future and, you know, can make it out of Chicago, make it out of the city, and go on to do great things as well. So shout out to the NBA. They've always been such a first-class organization when it comes to giving back to the communities. So same thing with the players and everybody else involved. Now, looking at Saturday, the three-point contest I thought was a lot of fun. I mean, it was competitive too. Like, guys were getting like 22s, 23s, and not making it to the final round. Literally came down to the last shot. And by the way, I did pick Buddy Hield to win it, and he did on that last shot. So didn't bet any money on it, but that's okay. Maybe I should have. I think his odds of winning weren't great, so I probably could have gotten some cash. But anyways, though, I'm not much of a gambler. But it was a lot of fun to watch the three-point contest. It's also a lot of fun to watch when, you know, you have really good players in the three-point contest, and it's gotten progressively more fun over the years. Maybe because the dunk contest has sucked, but in general, there's just so many good, you know, snipers out there that the NBA is a three-point shooting league, and there's a whole lot of them. So three-point contest was definitely fun to watch. So was the dunk contest. Look, to keep it real, it was one of the best dunk contests I've seen in a minute. Definitely since like that duel, if you will, between Zach LaVine and Aaron Gordon in 2016. Also, I remember in 2011 when it was in LA, that was a good dunk contest. Blake Griffin shouldn't have won, though. I mean, that was clearly fixed for him to win. Let's be honest here. But everybody else in that dunk contest was really good. DeMar DeRozan, Serge Ibaka, JaVale McGee. I remember that like it was just yesterday. But looking at the dunk contest this year, Pat Connaughton showed out. Dwight Howard showed out. Did not make it to the finals. And everything about this dunk contest was perfect except for who won. Now, Derrick Jones, I want, shout out him because Airplane Mode did in fact show up. He was phenomenal. Let's give the man the credit he deserves. But in the same breath, Aaron Gordon got robbed. He did. Aaron Gordon was clearly the better dunker. He clearly had the better dunk in the final round, and yet he still lost. Look, I, for one, am not opposed to having ties in a dunk contest. I'm not. If two guys are equally that great, I'm sure that we can give it to both of them. But even then, like, Aaron Gordon was clearly the better one. This man had really 650s. He had 650 dunks. They gave him 5, but he had 6 in real life. And he still lost. It got me heated because Aaron Gordon is going to go down as one of the greatest dunk contest competitors in NBA history, but he's not actually going to have a title to his name to really back himself up. But everybody in that room knows that he should have won. And I think Dwayne Wade, was biased, gave that 9 out of 10 for intentionally because he just wanted his boy Derek Jones to win. He didn't say it, but I think everybody knows it. Like, a little BS. And whatever. It is what it is. On to actual basketball now. Also thought the NBA did a great job honoring both David Stern and Kobe Bryant. Let's not forget David Stern, the former NBA commissioner. He also passed earlier on, and he was a great commissioner. A lot of people give him maybe not the credit he deserves, but David Stern really made the game global. Players loved him, and he was a big reason why the NBA became what it did. So got to give him credit. And also, Adam Silver, who's also a great commissioner as well, helped lay the groundwork for him. And Adam Silver just took the torch and has been carrying it ever since. And then Kobe, of course, I mean, you can say whatever about Kobe. Everybody's got a story. But, the fact that, they made the score to 24 in the fourth quarter, first team to score 24 points or get to that 24-point mark, was ultimately going to win. And it was really competitive. That's what Kobe would have wanted. And great All-Star weekend all around in that sense. Also, shout out to Jennifer Hudson, Common, and Chance the Rapper for killing it, both pregame and during the second, or what do you want to call it, halftime performance with Chance. Common's player intros were so good. Jennifer Hudson had, a nice little tribute as well. Kawhi Leonard, of course, I said, won the first ever Kobe Bryant MVP award. And the 2021 All-Star Game will be at Indianapolis. And it's funny because I was thinking the other day, because I know that Chicago, it's been a while since they've had an All-Star Game held in the Windy City. But I was wondering, when is Indiana ever hosted one? I was just thinking of cities that have never done it before. I didn't realize Indiana was actually hosting it. I was like, yeah, the Pacers I don't really ever recall them hosting an NBA All-Star Game weekend. And it turns out that will not be the case next year because they will be, in fact, hosting an All-Star Game. So shout out to Indiana. I'm sure they'll do a good job as well. And yeah, overall, great All-Star Game weekend. If you watched, it was definitely a lot of fun to watch. Players were having fun. The fans were having fun. People were, getting money to charities. And it was ultimately really competitive and great for the NBA as well. Next up, we're going to keep it in Chicago, but we're going to not talk about the All-Star Game. We're going to talk about the Bulls and how they can turn this franchise around. Now, this team, it's really hard to overcome bad ownership, bad front office work. And right now, that is the case with the Bulls. John Paxson has done a questionable job as of late as the GM for the Bulls. At least he cares. This guy is a former Chicago Bull, was on the 91, 92, 93 teams with, MJ and Pippen and all that. So it's not like the effort's probably not there. But the ownership's not great in Chicago. And you kind of wonder, how does this team turn it around? Zach LaVine, of course, by far the best player on the team, having a terrific season, would have been an all-star if the Bulls were even a lick good. He's a great individual player. But he's probably not going to be the guy on a championship roster. I wouldn't put him in the ranks of a LeBron or a Kawhi or a Steph, a KD, a guy who has been the best player on a championship team recently. He's not on that level. He can be a guy, but probably not the guy. The Bulls, they've been solid at drafting. I mean, Wendell Carter's good. Lauri Markkanen's good. Kobe White can be good. But in general, not great. I mean, this team, I would say all in all, they have promising players, but they haven't really hit on that one great player just yet. Now, Chicago, they are definitely one of those teams, and I said this at the draft lottery, they really could have used Zion or Ja. Like, Ja Morant would have fit perfectly on that team. Zion Williamson would have fit perfectly on that team, but of course they did not get either of those guys. They ended up falling to 7. I believe they had like the 4th best odds, and they fell to 7. And they ended up, taking Kobe White, who, again, is solid. But, again, the Bulls just don't have, they need a spark. They need something that's going to, change that team. And you know what, fans? This is a team, the Bulls, that has a history of winning. Jordan set the bar, of course. But even then, when they had Derrick Rose, Joakim Noah, Carlos Boozer, Luol Deng, Keith Bogans, that team was winning games, and they were competing in the Eastern Conference. And they were always one of the best teams in the East, and they were at least in the playoffs, giving it their all. Even when it was, the Jimmy Butler-led team with Rondo, they were still giving it their all. But the Bulls just haven't been there recently. And it's kind of pathetic, and the fans are sick and tired of what's going on. They're calling for John Paxson's head. They're calling for a change in ownership. Not sure either of those things would happen. Jim Boylan really hasn't proven much as a head coach, in my opinion. Not saying he can't coach. I just don't really know. Now, like I said, the Bulls, they need a culture changer. They need to bring in somebody who's going to whip these guys into shape and hold people accountable. And I think they need to go to the ESPN booth and get a guy like Mark Jackson or Jeff Van Gundy. I think that makes sense. Especially both these guys, they're hard-nosed, no BS excuses coaches. And I think that, they need a guy like that, even just to get them from A to B like Mark Jackson did with the Warriors. They need a guy like that that's going to turn this, really pick this thing from the ground up and make this team formidable again. Now, if I'm the Bulls, right, of course, people are going to, shoot their shots from all different angles trying to get Zach LaVine. I'm holding on to him at all costs because I don't think you're going to get the value that he deserves in return for Zach LaVine. And he's really the only good thing going for you right now if you're the Bulls. So don't, throw away him. He's way too talented for that. Keep Zach LaVine and build around that from there. And for the Bulls, they got a lot of money to spend. They got money to blow. Like, the song with Drake, Lil Wayne, and Birdman. So I say be aggressive, but play it smart. Play it cool in free agency. Only bring in guys who fit the culture. Don't really overpay for anybody that you don't have to. Bring in guys, they need more toughness. They need more grit. That's that Chicago kind of player that has shown to be successful in this franchise, is the gritty players. Even Michael Jordan, as flashy, as talented as he was grit. Scottie Pippen was grit. Dennis Rodman, grit. And even with the Bulls, Joakim Noah, grit. Defensive player of the year. The Bulls need to get back to that. So I say for them to get back, of course, bring in the right players, not just the talented players, but players are going to fit your culture. This team lacks a culture right now. They need a culture. And, make sure you can really, find the right puzzle pieces that match rather than just accumulating talent. And I think that's how the Bulls will get back to glory, if you will. And that may require some luck, too, in the draft and things of that nature. Maybe the balls will bounce their way this year. Next up, we're going to talk about if the Nets can actually win a championship. Now, this can get a little bit lost during the season. I don't want to talk about it too much just because I'm focusing on this season alone. And right now, the Nets are not a contender. But let's look next year. Can the Nets actually compete for a championship? Can they actually win a championship? Perhaps a better question is if Kyrie can actually stay healthy. That's a good point. But let's also not forget, on the real, that both KD and Kyrie are both NBA champs who've been there before and have both showed up in the NBA Finals. Both these guys have been absolutely terrific in the finals. Both of them. They have showed out, they have experience, and they know what it takes to get there. And I get both these dudes may be a little moody, maybe a little hard to deal with sometimes, but it seems like the rest of the guys on the Nets team, they've embraced them in Brooklyn, and both those guys want to be there. They both picked to go to Brooklyn, and they knew what they were signing up for. Kenny Atkinson, of course, super underrated head coach. He's a great X's and O guy, but he's also no BS coach who can both manage egos and develop talent. Gotta represent Long Island, of course. Shout out him. So this Nets team, they got the right front office. They got the right coaching staff. For the most part, they have the right players, but I guess a good question to ask is how does Spencer Dinwiddie and Karis LeVert, the two next best players on the Brooklyn Nets, how can they play off Kyrie and KD? All four of these dudes are at their best with the ball in their hands, and there's only one basketball on the court. So I guess the question is, how do you stagger their minutes? Can they all play together at the same time? Those are great questions that we're not going to know the answers to until this year. Because Spencer Dinwiddie's had a borderline all-star season. Karis LeVert's extremely talented and had a good year when he's been on the court. You know, maybe you bring Dinwiddie off the bench, but I feel like he's too good to bring off the bench. He's too good to bring off the bench. And I wouldn't just trade him away either. I don't think you want that. I don't know. It's a good problem to have. I always say it's a good problem when you have too many good players. But, sometimes there can be issues. Now, I think one guy that they got this offseason who has made an impact, but not, he's not the guy. I don't even think he's really even their starting center. I take Jared Allen over him, is DeAndre Jordan. He's a great locker room guy and a great leader. That's something this Brooklyn Nets team needs. I also think that he can be the middleman, if he's not already, be the middleman between the higher-ups and the players on the Nets, which is a very underrated aspect for championship teams. You need that bridge player that can really, preach the sermon, if you will, and a player that can, be the link between what the players want and what management wants. And I think DeAndre Jordan could be that perfect bridge guy. Also, he was a big part in Kyrie and KD going to the Nets because he also is very good friends, became friends with both those dudes during the 2016 Olympics. All three of those guys are really close. And I think, the Nets have really good chemistry, at least off the court, and we'll see if it translates on the court, of course. And this is, for the most part, a relatively young roster that lacks true playoff experience, championship experience. So I think Kyrie was right when the Nets said they need more to contend for a chip next year. The Nets definitely need to, sniff out a couple more guys to really help this team go. And you also have to hope that Kevin Durant is who he was. I think he will be. Kevin Durant's an extremely hard worker. He's a basketball savant. He's itching to get back on the court. And I think that when he gets back, he will prove once again why he is one of the greatest players to ever walk on a basketball court and to ever touch a basketball. So Nets, be aggressive in the offseason, but know what you're looking for as well. They need to get dogs. They need to get guys who are blue-collar players who will put their bodies on the line and make it, make this team tougher. Because a lot of championship teams, they have that grit. They have that desire to get better. I think they need a couple bruisers on this team, the Brooklyn Nets. Maybe a guy like Marcus Morris makes sense. I don't know. I think the Nets, they currently lack a couple of that toughness in them. They need a couple more of those guys for next year, considering the roster's relatively the same. A lot of finesse players right now. Need to find a balance between the finesse players who can put the ball in the basket, the flashy players, and the grit guys that will do the dirty work as well. If the Nets can do that, I do think this team can win a championship because, the Bucks are good. Who knows what's going to happen with the Sixers? The Nets will have one of the most talented rosters in the NBA next season, and if all else goes well, then I think the Nets do have a legitimate chance to win a championship, so I would not rule them out. Now, let's talk about a team that currently has a chance to win a championship this year and probably next year as well. The Los Angeles Clippers. And as a Lakers fan, hopefully this doesn't happen, or the Lakers are too good that it doesn't matter that the Clippers, all these acquisitions and stuff that they end up surpassing the Lakers. Hopefully it doesn't even matter, selfishly speaking here. But, as a journalist, a person who is objective here on the Ball Don't Lie podcast, I will talk about the Clippers here. So for one, I don't think there should be any questions about Kawhi Leonard. Even if he's load managing or whatever, for a fact he's going to show up for the playoffs. He's one of the coldest brothers in the NBA. This dude hits big shot after big shot, makes big play after big play, will guard your best player, will be the best player on the offensive side of the court. Kawhi Leonard's big time. I don't really need to say much else. He's probably the most solid thing that the Clippers have going right now. Now, it is also worth mentioning that the Clippers, I think a big thing that's going to help them is coaching. Doc Rivers, the head coach, Ty Lue, an assistant coach, a lot of these guys on the coaching staff, they have, postseason and championship experience and championship rings to show for it. I think they'll do a good job getting this team mentally ready to compete. I have to say, Doc Rivers didn't do a great job in 2015 when the Warriors overcame the Clippers. They're down 3-1, jumped the Clippers, and ended up winning the series 4-3. They blew that one. They didn't do a good job then. But I think that they'll learn from their mistakes, and I don't think that the Clippers will be blowing leads like that in the playoffs this year. It's a tough team to play. Now, I think the biggest question that not many people are talking about enough, at least, is how healthy and how effective will Paul George be in the playoffs? Paul George is an extremely talented player, and I don't question that. But it's been a tough season for him in terms of dealing with the injuries. He had surgery on both shoulders entering the offseason, or in the offseason, came into the season late, and really hasn't been the same player consistently as he was last season. An MVP, first-team All-NBA player, or MVP candidate, first-team All-NBA player with the Oklahoma City Thunder. If Paul George isn't bare minimum 85% of his best against these elite West teams, I don't see the Clippers making it to the finals. I don't. They need Paul George. Trust me. When it comes down to it, they have a lot of talent outside of Kawhi Leonard that's not named Paul George, but they need Paul George to show up, and they need him at his 100%. I just don't think that they're going to get there without him. I guess also to consider is how effective the supporting cast can be. I'm confident in Lou Will, confident in Trez. I think both of those guys will come up and play big. But can Landry Shamet keep hitting shots like he did in the playoffs last year? Can Marcus Morris make that much of an impact on this team? Can Pat Beverly hit those timely shots and make those timely plays that he has in the regular season? Can he do that in the playoffs? And can they just get great minutes from their supporting cast in general? Because I think they can, but we'll see. I also kind of wonder, is Reggie Jackson, I don't know, does he fit into all of this? Because, in my opinion, I just don't think he's a great fit with Lou Will off the bench. Lou Williams has always been the primary ball handler for this team since he arrived. Reggie Jackson is definitely more of an on-ball player. I don't think it makes sense for the Clippers to kind of relinquish some of the power Lou Williams has to running the offense. I think you got to keep it there. I guess Reggie Jackson's just a good backup, and I guess maybe the Clippers just signed him so nobody else could. Cough, cough, the Lakers. But even then, I don't know if he would have made that much impact on the Lakers anyway, in my opinion. But at the end of the day, the Clippers certainly are a force to be reckoned with. I'm not going to argue that. But I don't think we've seen the best version of them just yet. And I guess only time will tell if they'll get there. I have no idea. The Clippers are a really good team. I've said that on this podcast. I won't deny that. But we'll see if they can contend with a team like the Lakers, and even the Nuggets, and teams like that in the Western Conference when it matters. So last but not least, I know it's a short podcast. Fortunately, just not that much went on this week, as you know. But I will be giving an All-NBA team like I always do. And in honor of All-Star Weekend, I will give my All-NBA Jam team. So I pretty much just came up with the 5 best dunkers in the league. I tried a little bit to do it by position. It's not a perfect list, but I'll try my best here anyway. So first guy, David Green's boy, Dennis Smith Jr., who was never the best in the dunk contest, but he's got hops. This dude's got bunnies. He can bounce straight out of Fayetteville, North Carolina, straight out of Dreamville, if you will. DSJ is definitely a good player. Not a good fit with the Knicks. Knicks looking like they're probably going to draft another point guard in the draft this year. So hopefully for Dennis Smith Jr., he goes elsewhere and gets another opportunity with a team that will actually give him some burn. He's a great dunker, good offensive player. Hopefully for Dennis Smith Jr., we'll keep seeing those highlight dunks in games because he doesn't really play that much, so we don't really get a chance to see him anyway. Next up, we got Zach LaVine, 2-time dunk champion. Probably 2 of the best dunk contests I've ever seen in NBA history, individually speaking, from Zach LaVine. Dude's a beast. I'm not sure he has the same hops as he did, but he can definitely still jump. I mean, he almost converted a 360 from the free throw line. in a video he leaked recently. He said he doesn't want to do the dunk contest anymore. But nevertheless, Zach LaVine's still one of the best dunkers of all time. He gets the job done, and I would be a fool to not put him on this list. Also, worth saying, I didn't put Vince Carter on this list just because he's definitely not at that level anymore. I'm sure he's still got hops, but he's definitely not at the level he was 2000 Vince Carter. So, with all due respect to Vinsanity, not on the list. It wasn't an all-time thing. It's kind of a current thing right now. But I just want to make that clear so no one comes after me. Next up, of course, I have to put Aaron Gordon on here. I mean, we just saw what he did. He did it in 2016, too. He's probably not going to compete in the dunk contest anymore. His words, not mine. And it's a shame because he definitely does deserve a dunk contest trophy because Aaron Gordon is one of the greatest dunkers in NBA history. So shout out Aaron Gordon. It's unfortunate he didn't win, but at the end of the day, I'm still going to give him the respect he deserves here on the Ball Don't Lie podcast. No team gets left behind, and no dunker gets left behind either. Now, next up, I don't think this guy will ever compete in a dunk contest, especially if he didn't do it this year. But I'm going to have to go with Zion Williamson. I mean, for someone to get up at his size is remarkable. I've personally never seen it before. The NBA game probably has never seen it before. Zion Williamson is a once-in-a-generation type of athlete. At bare minimum, he's a great player, of course. He's going to have a great career. But just as a dunker, I mean, some of the dunks that he could pull off are remarkable. And, of course, I'd be a fool to not put him on this list. And last but not least, have to give credit to the actual 2020 NBA Slam Dunk champion, and that is Derrick Jones Jr. himself, Airplane Mode, which is a pretty cool nickname. This guy's had hops for a minute. I remember the Suns pulled him up from the G League. I don't even know if it may have been the D League at the time. I don't even remember. But they pulled him up just so he can compete in the dunk contest in maybe in 2017 or so. But ended up not winning the dunk contest. But nevertheless, he still came back this year and won it. He had a great performance overall. Got to give him the credit where it's due at the same time. And, Miami Heat were represented pretty well at the All-Star game. Bam Adebayo won the skills comp. Bam Adebayo was also in the All-Star game. Duncan Robinson was in the three-point contest. And then Derrick Jones ended up winning the slam dunk contest. So that is going to wrap it up here for Ball Don't Lie. I know it's just me today, but I promise you, hopefully our boy Matt Saporsky, a newcomer for PSSN, he is down to do the podcast. Just cannot do it this week. It is Thon weekend, of course. So shout out to everybody who's going to be dancing at Thon. Hopefully I'll be there tomorrow doing my thing. And that's going to wrap it up here. It's Hunter Pitcoff as always. Thank you for tuning in to Ball Don't Lie, episode 16. Hopefully I'll catch you next week.
Thank you for watching our latest edition of Penn State Sports Night. If you're a fan of our content, please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more clips. Also follow us on Twitter at PSSNTV and on Instagram at PSU Sports Night to keep up with the action. For all my colleagues, we are Penn State Sports Night.